Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Transitioning to the New Customer Service Practitioner Apprenticeship Standards. Thank you for joining us. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to explain a few things about our webinar platform to allow you to get the most out of the experience. All viewers will be in listen-only mode. You can use the on-screen panel to adjust your audio settings and the question tab to engage with us. We expect that our webinar will be extremely popular, but our team will do our best to answer your questions and queries. During our webinar, we will be running a number of polls. To record your response, please click on the on-screen voting button when asked to do so. After the webinar, we will be providing a recording, a copy of the slides, and a fact sheet to address any unanswered questions. Now I'd like to hand over to our presenters, Mandy Slaney, Dominic Green, and Simon Berry.
Hi, welcome to the webinar. This is our second webinar for Customer Service Practitioner. And I'm delighted to actually introduce Dominic Green, who's our new Technical Advisor for Business and Finance, who will be joining us today to do the webinar. So really just to cover what we're going to include today is really just a recap of the Customer Service Practitioner Apprenticeship, the standard and what you really need to know, how we can support you with off the job and on the job, and really following on from the last webinar as to, we have what we are developing ready to support you, and now we're at a position that we can actually show some of the resources that are going to help you along the way. We'll do an update on the EPA service, next steps, and then we'll have a session for questions and answers. So to recap on the Customer Service Practitioner Apprenticeship Standard, one of the key things that we mentioned in the previous webinar was how important the initial assessment is to ensure that you have the right learners on the programme, are they in the right job roles, and we can talk through some of the resources that we've developed to support you with that. We have the on programme, on the job and off the job, so that's where you cover this knowledge, skills and behaviours. Then towards Gateway, the maths and English requirements, so they need to have completed level 1 and attempted level 2. And really show evidence that they have met the knowledge, skills and behaviours of this standard. The last part is going towards EPA. So then the EPA components for Customer Service Practitioner is the apprenticeship showcase, practical observation and the professional discussion. So what does the standard cover? So if you look at the knowledge, skills and behaviours, really the learners really need to know about knowing the customers, and actually they need to know it, and then they need to show it, and then it's really, living their behaviours. How can they demonstrate they're actually applying them behaviours? One of the key documents I would always refer to is around the occupational brief. This can be obtained at the back of the assessment plan, and really this is exactly what you need to know, what the apprentices need to know, what criteria is covered within each of the sections. So we've demonstrated an example of this. So really, if you look at the product knowledge, product and service knowledge, what do they need to know? What do they need to understand? So really, it's the standard. What do we need to know? And also, when you look at the different criteria, so what does a pass look like? What does a learner need to be able to demonstrate? So explain the difference between features and benefits of products and services. The distinction. So actually explain why it's important to update their knowledge on the organisation's products and services. We'd always really persuade you to really look at demonstrating these at the beginning to the learner so they're aware of exactly what's going to be required, but also with the employer, because the employer needs to know what does the learner need to know, what do they need to do in their job role to be able to achieve the standard. So we would always encourage you to actually aim for the distinction, really get the learners to think about what they need to do in the day-to-day and how they can demonstrate this. And then you have the method of assessment. So for this example, this would be demonstrated in the apprenticeship showcase. Mapping. We've created a mapping document to the existing customer service qualification, diploma qualification. So this is a qualification that sits in the STACE framework, so the City and Guilds number, which is the 5530. And really what we've done is to try and see where they actually map across from the old STACE to the new. Also, this will help you with actually planning your own programme, because if you've developed lots of resources or you've been using our Smart Screen resources, you can actually see which existing resources you could just apply to the new standard, and it really shows you where the overlap is. So the mapping document is available on the website for you to be able to download. So the key documents, and all these documents are absolutely crucial in order for you to be able to prepare for endpoint assessment and actually know what's going to be required. So the Customer Service Apprenticeship Standard, then the assessment plan, and that's where the occupational brief will be, you can obtain at the back, and then the EPA Customer Pack, which we're going to talk through in more detail later on. That can be obtained off the website for centres that are actually registered for endpoint assessment. This document is available now, so you can actually go and download the document. If you've previously downloaded documents, I would always make sure you're using the current version, because we are updating frequently. So please do go on our website and check you've got the latest document version. So off the job, 20%. This is an area that's caused the most concern. We've had the most questions and the most support that we've been asked to provide. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of this. We do have a separate webinar that we put together just purely on off the job. So if you've not actually listened to the webinar, I would really recommend that you actually go on our website and go through the 20%. There's some brilliant advice and guidance on the webinar, really giving you examples of the evidence that you can actually collate. One of the things I would really strongly advise is that it's all around the planning. So you really need to know from day one, how are you going to deliver off the job, and also make sure that the employer is engaged with this, and make sure that you actually have a plan which will demonstrate exactly how you can demonstrate what off-the-job training is included, when it will take place, and that everybody involved is understanding when that's going to happen and what's going to be involved. So there's lots of good examples there. You know, it could be competitions, visiting employers, departments, lots of different examples that you could really bring in to make the off-the-job really interesting, but also make sure it's actually, you know, applies to the job role, to the learner, and also make sure it is new learning that is actually linked to the apprenticeship standard. We're now going to do our first poll question.
Okay, so you're going to see a poll flash up on your screen in a second. This poll question is, where are you with transitioning to the Customer Service Practitioner Standard? And the answers you have are, all starts are now on the new standards. The starts are on a combination of SACE and standards, while starts are only on the SACE frameworks. Okay, really interesting that half of you now have all your starts on the new standards.
Okay, so what I'm going to be covering now is essentially our offer designed around centres, employers and apprentices. Like Mandy mentioned before, employers and providers often tell us that the 20% off the job is often a concern. Depending on the job role itself, there'll be a range of methods that we can help with to deliver this training. Without using the structure of the actual qualification itself, 2794 that is, we do actually have a range of resources and tools to help support providers and employers deliver a programme mapped to those knowledge, skills and behaviours which is required. So, not only do we, as part of those resources, we do actually have some essential content that we can cover. That content includes looking at PREVENT, also looking at the British values, covering equality and diversity, and health and safety. These additional resources are available on our Smart Screen, which can be embedded nicely into any program. They are excellent practice, obviously, for evidencing for key Ofsted visits, things like that. So on to our other resources. We have a comprehensive apprenticeship training manual for the customer service practitioner. It can be used as a guidance for on program, like I mentioned before. It can also be used to be logged as part of 20% of the job. The training manual itself is 100% mapped to 9794 standard. It's an excellent tool for ensuring underpinning knowledge is given to your apprentice. The beauty of it is it's available in both hard copy or electronic copy. The electronic copy will be available via smart screen. And the actual assessment, this apprenticeship training manual itself covers a series of work-based tasks. So essentially that the learners can relate their learning to their own experiences and that of the organisation. And of course, all tasks will be available on Learning Assistant as well. So as far as our tutor support is concerned, our smart screen offer, it offers a flexible delivery method. It can be adapted to specific learning styles. We have schemes of work and lesson plans up there already, which obviously saves time for the valuable time that is for tutors, learning coaches, mentors, to ensure that key areas are met. And it also gives you, of course, that peace of mind that resources are fully supported on our programme and mapped across appropriately. The next resource that we have also is called the Enhanced Smart Screen, which is our next step up from the Smart Screen itself. We have all of the Smart Screen already incorporated, enhanced and more. The added advantage of Enhanced is the introduction of videos. These can be anything from short, sharp films, etc., which are appropriate for apprentices. They're often quite witty, quite sarcastic, which makes learning a little bit more fun, shall we say. These videos themselves are obviously often or always backed up by worksheets, tasks, anything like that really, and of course by the apprentice carrying out these worksheets and tasks, all this can be logged as 20% off the job. What we're going to do now is just have a short break again for another poll question.
Okay, so our second poll question, which is going to pop up on your screen shortly, is what are your biggest challenges associated with preparing apprentices for EPA? And the answers are building apprentices' confidence in assessment, developing a programme of study to ensure apprentices have the right knowledge, skills and behaviour, embedding ongoing assessment to track learning and give feedback to the apprentice, preparing apprentices so they know what to expect, or making a decision and judging when they are ready for EPA. Okay, I'm going to put the results up now. As you can see, it's quite a mixed bag, but most of you have gone for preparing apprentices so they know what to expect. And that was followed very closely by developing programs, study programs to embed the right knowledge, skills and behaviour, and making a decision or judging when they're ready for EPA. Okay, I'd now like to hand over to Simon Berry, who will be talking you through Get to Gateway.
Hello everybody, my name is Simon Berry. I'm the Digital Solutions Manager for City and Guilds. My role is to implement and demonstrate our digital products. So with the customer service, we have now developed our a system. Most of you might be familiar with Learning Assistant, but what we've now done is we're kind of piloting the new customer service standards with a system called Get to Gateway. Okay, so what is Get to Gateway? It's an access on demand using nothing more complex than a web browser. Apprentices use their choice of device whenever, wherever they want to access their learning. So it can be tablet, it can be mobile device, laptops. Assessors engage online. Less time on the road means more time coaching. Okay. The management reporting in the system is present, accurate, up to the second data on progress and funding. So as you can see, we've built in like an induction program, which, as someone mentioned earlier, things like British values, prevent, health and safety is all built in. And then we've got the actual standards as well. Okay. So on this, what you get is an overall view of how many units are not started, returned, overdue, submitted and completed. So it gives you exactly where the learner is currently at. Okay, so the structure and content. So very much is off-the-shelf learning assessment content for this specific apprenticeship standards, which covers all the knowledge, skills and behaviour. So the learner works through all these tasks, which will then prepare them in the right way for the endpoint assessment. Okay, so they're built in panels and the learner will work through them. They're interactive, there's videos, there's a lot of different resources attached to this. So it's not just workbooks, it's very much interactive resources. They are out of the box, so it's not something that you can amend. It is very much what we've put in and we can't really do any more amendments with it, but it does teach them towards the skills and behaviours. Some examples on the screen. So the customer service practitioner, what you get within this, you get an induction program, which gives you the induction, can let them know about what they got to do for the program, the ILP. They also get their reflective practice, safeguarding and prevent, and then British values. And then within the actual course, they get all the different tasks, which the learner accesses, all the interactive content, and then it will get pushed through the assessor to mark. So all this content is all built in already. So there'll be no need to obviously purchase additional resources. It's already in this Get to Gateway software. Okay, so obviously just a few other things. We've got the products and services, so the different tasks as well in addition to this. So the endpoint assessment task page relate to City and Guilds endpoint assessment are only available to customers using obviously City and Guilds as their EPA. Now, we are currently demoing this Get to Gateway. So the Get to Gateway is something that we're currently rolling out at the moment. So if you are interested in using this system, what you kind of need to do is asking us about a demo, and then coming to see us, and we'll kind of set a demo up of a small amount of learners to work through, and then we'll kind of roll it out. The kind of online resources that we kind of got is video content. There is obviously wording as well. There's a lot of content for each learner to work through. Okay, and then based on the content, they've got the activities then to work through to test their knowledge. So once the activity is done, they then get the questions around or activities around the content. So there is different roles in the system. You've got administrators who can set up and create learners, create team members, give employer access and run detailed reporting. Then the assessors, tutors or coaches is what we're calling them, they can plan, guidance, review and support the apprentice. And then the apprentice accesses the learning content, but they can also record all the off-the-job training as well. So just to cap the 20% off the job, 20% off the job, you can record within the system. So it does electronic stamp the learner's recording of this. So it will go in there and then the system will cumulatively add up all the different entries. So we'll give you a total value. The learner manager, assessors can quickly access their caseload and then they've also got access to all the reporting, the data, how many times the learner's logged in, and do all the reporting as well. And now I'm going to just pass back over to another presenter. If you've got any queries on Get to Gateway, please get in touch and we'll set you up. Thank you very much.
So looking at the digital credentials, we've actually developed some digital badges for the customer service practitioner, which we are about to pilot. We have got a few places left on the pilot if any centres are interested to learning more about. Basically, the badges have been developed against a standard, and this is a really good way to measure sort of progression and actually set the learner's individual milestones. So the actual badges have been mapped to the apprenticeship training manual tasks, but also to the standard. And the content of that is interlinked. And what we have done is actually group them. So actually these badges could be applied anywhere, because if you think about other standards with customer service is throughout. So they really are transportable. So for example, a couple of the key badges will be around communication skills. Now this really helps to help support around the behaviours as well, so you can really bring it in to make sure not only that do they know it, but actually are they demonstrating these skills. Also, we spoke about the first webinar that we were developing a new qualification, which was absolutely mapped 100% to the new apprenticeship standard. We're now delighted that the actual qualification is live, and the number is actually 2794. So if you want to go on the website and have a look, the handbook, all the information for the qualification is there. This really came on the back of actual requests from certain employers who said we would like our employees to actually do a qualification and to complete, and we also want it to be a diploma. So we really are seeing quite a lot of uptake on that. What it does do is it will provide structure, and as it is mapped 100% to the standard, it really is a great on-programme resource to have. We've also got resources that are actually available on SmartStream for this, and we've also mapped it to the standard. This is the details of the qualifications. There's mandatory units, which are all the core areas, and then we've also got the optional units. Now these have really been developed on the back of requests from employers, but also where there's apprenticeship standards that have not been, say standards have not been replaced with the new apprenticeship standards, for example sales. And also thinking about business admin level 2. We know there's a lot of learners on business admin level 2 and at that level, and there's no apprenticeship standard at the moment in that area. So what we've done is develop these in line linked with business to actually make sure they're fit for purpose. What's really nice about the optional units is the unit 210 is actually a multi-choice, and that covers all the knowledge. So it's really good preparation for endpoint assessment to make sure that the learners have the breadth of knowledge that's required for the standard and also for endpoint assessment. So Maths and English, an absolute core area, and for us it's very much embedded and really needs to be interlinked with the standard. We have lots of support resources in that area. Some of it on the website is absolutely free, and other areas where you want more in-depth resources is available to purchase. We are also running some CPD events because we're finding that this is certainly an area that providers and employers have asked for support, because the core area that they will need to complete the Maths and English in order to complete the apprenticeship standard. So e-portfolio, Simon covered the key areas and what e-portfolio can actually do. One of the key things that we've actually done is we've actually embedded the apprenticeship task manual onto the Learning Assistant e-portfolio. So all the tasks are actually on there, and they look exactly the same as they do in the manual. So you can really, you've got the program there, you've got the structure, you can start collating the evidence, and also you can start collating the off the job. We're now going to have our next poll question.
Okay, so our next poll question is, at what stage in an apprentice's journey will you register them for EPA? And the answers you have are as soon as they start, halfway through their own programme, towards the end of their own programme, or not until they have passed Gateway? Okay, interesting. So 30% of you said towards the end of their own program, 31% of you said not until they had passed Gateway, and 25% of you said as soon as they start. So thank you for contributing there.
Okay, so what I'm going to cover now is the EPA preparation tool. What we've done is listen to our customers. Many concerns which have come from our customers is around actually the apprentice going through the EPA itself. So potentially looking at issues around the soft skills that they might need to generate prior to EPA. When the apprentice is registered, what we then offer is the EPA preparation tool. This sits on our smart screen, which is then accessed via a login. This login will be generated and sent to the centre within approximately 10 days. And basically, it essentially is there to help support the apprentice with things like professional discussion, taking part in an observation, and it does that via short, sharp videos which have been accessed from the internet. And the apprentice can essentially look at these as and when they choose. They can favourite them, so they can go back to them and refer back to them at any time, and they can actually take notes about these videos which will support them towards that EPA. Okay, which brings me nicely on to the EPA service itself. As part of the EPA service, we have a manual. It'll highlight key areas required for that EPA service. We do have a dedicated EPA team which can support you through that EPA service. And of course, as part of our EPA service, we have the advantageous payment structure. So you're only paying up front £25 to register, and then you're not actually invoiced until after the EPA is completed. So as part of the EPA service, we offer an EPA pack. It is basically there to offer detailed guidance on key areas of assessment, such as the showcase, such as the observation, the discussion. It also highlights the grading criteria of what's required, and it gives nice instructions for both the employer, the training provider, and the apprentice themselves in order to succeed. As far as the assessment is actually concerned, there's 3 forms of assessment. One is the showcase, observation and discussion. The showcase is very much a holistic approach, so we're looking at a holistic portfolio which evidence should be gathered during that 12-month period. We're looking at progress versus best, so the apprentice should be gathering their best forms of evidence towards the end of the 12 months or on programme period. However, if the best is actually generated prior to the end, maybe 5, 6, 7 months in, then so be it. If that is their best, then use it appropriately. The observation itself will take place face-to-face within the workplace and will require, obviously, customer interaction. And as far as the professional discussion is concerned, what we'd suggest is that takes place pretty soon after the observation to give the apprentice the best possible chance to draw down as much evidence as possible. As far as the grading is concerned, in order to achieve a pass, every apprentice must complete all pass criteria. As far as distinction is concerned, then all pass criteria must be achieved, and then obviously distinction on top. So as far as the showcase is concerned, 7 out of 10 of the distinction criteria needs to be met, as well as all the pass criteria. The observation, 4 out of 5 of the criteria needs to be met, as well as the pass criteria, and the discussion, 3 out of 4 needs to be met, as well as the pass criteria again. So as far as entry requirements are concerned for the EPA, there must be evidence of the apprentice successfully completing level 1 maths and English. And also, they must have also attempted level 2 Maths and English as well, and this needs to be evidenced. If you've carried out functional skills via City and Guilds, then that evidence will already be apparent in Walled Garden. The gateway will then be triggered after a minimum of 12 months on programme. Once that's achieved and they are ready to go through gateway, then a gateway declaration form must be completed. It must be completed by the employer, the training provider, or the college provider, and the apprentice themselves together. So essentially, all three parties are taking equal responsibility. The booking of the EPA would take place 60 to 90 days in advance of the EPA actually taking place itself. And prior to that, prior to the gateway, we would expect that reviews are regularly undertaken, maybe every 4 to 6 weeks for a minimum of 30 minutes, of which would incorporate the standard setting learning goals, tracking the apprentice's progress, ensuring that sufficient coaching and guidance, and obviously to coordinate that 20% off the job.
We're now going to go to our fourth and final poll of the session. This question is, when will your learners be ready for EPA? And the answers you've got are between June and August this year, September, November this year, December to February 2019, March to May 2019, or from June 2019 onwards. Okay, so really interesting, 40% of you, the majority went for June 2019 onwards, and that was followed by March to May 2019, and that was quite close to September, November 2018.
So our EPA service, we simplified the pricing process. As Dominic explained earlier, we do ask for a £25 registration fee, but really there's so many benefits of actually registering. Obviously there's lots of resources you can access, like the EPA preparation tool, but more so around making sure that you have got confidence that you have an assessor ready and you've actually had your booking of that with us as an EPAO. The bookings for customer service are starting to increase. We want to make sure that we're planned and we've got assessors in place geographically where you need them. So there's lots of benefits of actually doing that. Then also, then there's the final charge, and what we'd like to sort of reinforce is all our prices are inclusive of VAT, and there's no charges above that. So the registration is £25, and the actual fee for the EPA is £525. Included, what we've developed on back of the actual support resources that you really have asked for, and it's around the EPA. And what do the EPA exemplar materials, what would it look like? What does good look like? So we've, the final stages, and they will be available in August, we've produced some examples of evidence that we would class as good examples, the showcase, guidance and observation, and also guidance on professional discussion. What is a professional discussion? How can you prepare the learners for this? So this is all underpinned by the tutor notes, which will be available on SmartScreen very, very shortly. Results and resits. So you will be issued with a statement of achievement once the apprentice passes. Also, we will then apply for the certificate from the Institute of Apprenticeships, and that actually goes to the employer. If a learner fails, we'll provide you with formal notification on Walled Garden, and that will also give you some feedback on the areas where the learners failed. You can actually resit each component, and the prices for that are actually available on the Walled Garden, or if you contact the inbox if you'd like any more information on that later. Our assessors, so we've recruited, in fact it's way over 100 now, so it keeps increasing daily. We have already conducted quite a lot of EPAs across other standards. We've recruited lots of assessors already and trained. We've also, one of the key things, and particularly for customer service, is making sure we employ the right people to be these assessors, because making the learners feel relaxed and really trying to get the learners to, show the best is absolutely crucial. So we've got a really brilliant team that are in place already. And the other thing we'd say is really we are still recruiting, because the customer service practitioner particularly is going to grow, but also across all the standards. So please do go on our website and look at the areas we are recruiting assessors at the moment. Just briefly on next steps. So just like to reinforce, our endpoint assessment for customer service practitioner is live. You can place bookings now. And also one of the key things that will be available soon is a skill scan. So really, we really would recommend that people do a skill scan to make sure the learners are on the right programme right from the start. Sample tasks, and again, where you've seen clips of the task manual, we are actually going to put samples on the website so you can have a quick look at what that would look like, and the tutor resources. Also network events, we've delivered lots of network events which have had really positive feedback. We are delivering more. We are looking for centres to host them, so if you're interested, please contact us. And also webinars, we will be delivering ongoing webinars. Modular webinars are now being developed for each of the EPA components, and they will be available once you actually register with us. So really, just to recap, there's lots of support, different events, webinars available. There are contact details. Please do feel free to contact us directly, and also the link for the webinars, so have a look at the list of webinars available. Really would just all of us like to say thank you, and we look forward to receiving questions now.
So if you have any questions for any of our team today, could you please type them into the question tab? We've got the next 8 minutes to answer your questions. If we can't get through them in today's session, we'll definitely follow up with them in the post-webinar Q&A. Okay, so if you have any more questions, please do type them in, and I'll let our team pick and choose the questions they want to answer.
The question on can evidence be used for 2794 qualification and the EPA, what I would say is if you are wanting to use any evidence to put forward for the endpoint assessment, so you want to use evidence within the showcase, this evidence must not be assessed prior to putting that in your showcase. So what we'd recommend is you look at the format that's in, and also try and create a holistic approach. So rather than putting individual pieces of evidence in there, please try and link it to the story, so that it's, what we would say is more, less is better than more. We want quality evidence put in the showcase.
So the question, I am assuming the portfolio is paper-based. Is that correct? It's not actually correct, no. The portfolio can be generated itself however you like. Some people like to use ePortfolio, some people will gather a hard copy, but when it comes to Gateway, what we ask is that the portfolio is actually in electronic format and will be uploaded to our ePortal.
A question on, are all the resources tasks available on Smart Screen at present? All the resources are available and the tasks available on Smart Screen apart from the exemplar EPA preparations, which will be going up in August. Is the Gateway a replacement for Learning Assistant, or is it in addition to? This is actually something that's been tailored to customer service practitioner. So Learning Assistant is still available, but this is I would call an enhanced Learning Assistant. So it's actually been where we put the resources that are actually specific to customer service practitioner and is only available for customer service practitioner at the moment. Will the IQA role still be required with the new standards? Very much so. What we would recommend, well, we've seen good evidence coming forward with other EPA submissions, is around whether they've had a robust IQA internal process. And actually, that role is in effect been like a mock assessor. So they're actually going through the evidence prior to you submitting it. So very much so, we would say, as you would a high risk new area, 100% IQA activity, we would really strongly recommend. Our actual lead assessors will be sampling 100% initially of all the EPA activities. Yes, with regards to, I have a learner that's created video presentation with voiceover instead of written reports, will it be useful as part of the showcase? Absolutely. You know, it is an electronic system. We would really encourage you to use different types of evidence and really get something that's going to motivate the learner. Don't get them writing reams and reams. Where can I find the EPA guidance pack? The EPA guidance pack is available on the website. If you actually go on 9794, you will be able to obtain it. You will need a password, so you will need to be registered for the actual customer service practitioner standard to be able to obtain that and download it.
So another question is, you've shown many links. Will these be available after the webinar, or is there a location where they can be noted? The webinar is recorded, so you will be able to access them after the webinar has finished.
I'm still a little confused about what can be used as part of the showcase. Can you explain this, please? Really, that's going to the standard, looking at the occupational brief, what needs to be covered for the apprentice showcase, and providing evidence for that. So you would really be looking at mapping that across to the standard and where that actually maps across. There is a recording form available on the website, and you can actually see where you would cross-reference that evidence against the standard. But as I said earlier, we really wouldn't expect the individual pieces of evidence. You need to know to make sure it's quality.
Is it okay to use our own e-portfolio? Yes, of course. We don't specify which e-portfolio you use to gather your evidence. However, we do need to keep all evidence for 5 years. So what we do ask is that you will need to download that information from your e-portfolio and then re-upload onto our e-portal.
If we are going to do the diploma customer service, can you not use that evidence for showcase? Not in the format it's been, as we said earlier. If it's been assessed, no. You would need to make sure that the evidence for the showcase is mapped to the standard, and that is uploaded with the showcase evidence. So you couldn't just complete a unit and upload that. You would have to look at the evidence, map it to the standard, and it can't be assessed, formally assessed before you submit.
Just to answer one of your questions about all the documentation from today, every attendee will get a copy of the slides, a link to the recording, and a copy of the Q&As. We'll sit down and type them out for you. If you have any more questions, we've got 1 more minute left, so please do get them into the panel, and we'll do our best to get them answered.
Seen a question on how many assessment meets can be booked when you enter EPA. When you actually make your booking and registration for EPA, you automatically have access to all the free assessments within EPA. So it's one registration that gives you access to all the free assessment methods.
Okay, I think that's it for the questions. So I'd like to say thank you very much to our presenters, Mandy, Dominic, and Simon. And thank you very much for attending where you are. We hope to see you at the next webinar shortly.